Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're still watching TVC Breakfast Saturday. Boosting a country's economy requires a multifaceted approach, and one effective strategy is to support homegrown businesses. According to economic experts, patronizing local products is a crucial strategy for achieving economic prosperity. By promoting and supporting homegrown industries, Nigeria can create jobs and reduce dependence on foreign goods. This approach not only fosters economic development, but also helps preserve local cultures and traditions. That's what we want to discuss now, and we bring in for this conversation the CEO and founder of Giri Today, Wale Anyonyoye. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you
welcome.
for having me. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us on the program this morning.
Thank you, Emmanuel.
Absolutely. So just give us, first of all, a brief assessment of how you see things presently, because it sounds rather simplistic if you ask me. When you say support homegrown businesses, I feel there is something missing in that sentence. But let's have your assessment of the situation, talking about support. How much of support are businesses enjoying, SMEs enjoying presently in Nigeria?
I think currently the SME structure has gone through a lot of improvement in the last couple of years. And a lot of it has to do with the penetration of mobile technology, and likewise the adoptions of e-monies and the rest of all of those technology that is coming out. As against the traditional way where SMEs, if it's not cash in hand, transactions are never going to happen. But right now, right from the comforts of your home, you can do online shopping, you can complete an entire transactions and all of those nuances. I just think it's more about people understanding that either we like it or not, technology is part of our daily lives. And so for those business owners, those that have small businesses, even enterprises, understanding that technology is a core factor of what they need to do. And since you have the mobile phone in your hand, it's a very, very powerful tool, and there's a lot of things you can absolutely do with it.
At what point can we have a conducive environment that will allow these businesses to thrive? Talking about policies of government.
There is a lot of work to be done around the policy area, because we need to understand that for every policy that we write on paper, for everything we put out there, there are real lives, real businesses that are being impacted. While some of the government areas today, they've done a tremendous job in understanding that entrepreneurship training is essentially important for the development of the country GDPRs. Years ago in the 90s, we relied a lot on crude oils. There was a time before then that it was agriculture. But as of today, the main strength of any developing nation is understanding that the power is in exportation of the things that they have. The things that we have it in abundance in terms of natural resources. We have them in terms of agriculture. We have lands and businesses that the global market is constantly looking for every day. Like, for example, just to answer you with figures, last year alone, the search for made in African good, authentic, handcrafted products was worth about $50 billion. And it is projected to go to about $1 trillion by 2030. So now the question is this: are we positioning ourselves to capture the $1 trillion by 2030, or what are we doing about that?
All right, so let's come to you. Let's be personal about it. Tell us about your growth in the industry, how you've been able to navigate the uncertainties in the terrain, policy after policy, government after government. What's it been like for you? What's the journey been like for you?
I'm going to say it's a lot of hills and likewise a lot of valleys. So there are days where it is hills, there are days where it is valleys. But the most important thing is understanding this, that while what we build is essential, we're not just building behind every technology and then the common words now, AI, machine learning and the rest of that. There are real people, real lives that are being impacted by every decision that we make. And I think the moment we understand that the e-commerce side and likewise all of these natural resources, they're actually there. And with that, people can actually have roof over their head, light in their houses, send their kids to good schools. And the reliance of the average 9 to 5 is going to be different. By the time you count 5 people within your circle, you will know somewhere that have a side hustle. Now, the question is this: if these side hustles are there, these are also areas where governments can actually generate taxes, because when these people make sales, there are revenues that is going to be returned back to the government. So the main thing, the main ask is this: help us help these people. But if you keep introducing policies that keep killing them every day, then before you know it, there is not going to be additional revenue that's going to go back to the government. lives are not going to be improved, currency are going to keep getting devalued. It's a trickle-down effect just by one policy alone. So the only ask is this, rather than seeing them as competitors, because honestly they are not, help them so that they can grow. That is the only ask.
I love the fact that you talk about Buy Nigeria, homegrown businesses.
Yes.
How can Nigerians tap into that opportunity and be able to produce quality goods and services in the country that's able to compete with other developed countries?
That's a valid question. The world today has woken up. Everywhere you go to that is around protect the planet, sustainability product, biodegradable products. Guess what? We don't have to struggle for it. We have it in abundance. From hand-woven baskets to handcrafted drums and all of these things. These are biodegradable products that is not even affecting the planet in any way. So the most important thing around this is understanding in the value in what we already have. Now, the authenticity of what we have is another question. A good example that I can give is Abia State government, the introduction of telling made in Aba products and say, rather than making duplicates or replica of original product, let's start made in Aba and put a stamp on it. And the governments have right now been training entrepreneurs to understand that away from producing this, there is a global standard out there that is expected of you. Now, there are so many name brands that we buy as of today. Why do we buy them? Because of authenticity and because we rely on the quality of the product being produced. I think the moment we shift away from mass production to quality production, the world is already waiting for us. I live in the US. Hardly is there any lounges, any places you go to today that jollof rice is not being introduced, Afrobeat is not leading the charts. So the world already awakening. Now the question is this, are we going to be the one to push made in Africa by Africans to the global market, or are we going to allow the Chinese to do it for us?
All right, I think this might just be a message for the entrepreneurs themselves. That might just be one of the highlights of this interview, where you said just seconds ago that emphasis should be on quality production and not mass,
yes.
And not mass production. Even though the basic business owner might say government is not there for me when I need them, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't, give customers, a good feel. When they get home after making that purchase, they get home and they're just, swearing or cursing or angry at the product.
About the quality.
About the product. And yet you are the same person saying, buy Nigeria. But, where is the quality? What is the gap? What is stopping the average entrepreneur from doing just that?
Good question. If you scroll on Instagram before you spend 5 minutes, you're going to see what I bought versus what I got. This wasn't what I ordered.
Especially online purchases.
Exactly, especially online. And for someone like me who has built most of his entire experience within payments and likewise e-commerce, understanding that customer trust is essential to everything that you're doing. You can spend a lot of dollars to acquire customers on your platform, but if the quality control is missing, not only are you losing that customer, you're losing their friends and families. Nothing spreads faster than bad news. It's going, oh, don't buy this on this platform because the quality control is terrible. So I think it's a two-side of the house. The platform itself shouldn't just focus about profit, which is, oh, I'm connecting buyers and sellers and I'm making my own money and I'm out of it. I don't care whatever happens after that. That is the wrong mindset. The second one is also the seller, understanding that either way, people are going to pay. And people are always going to pay for quality. And understanding that for every product you put out there, you are not just representing your business alone. Always remember that. You are representing an entire race. Then it's going to be, oh, don't buy what is made in Africa. Don't buy what is made in Nigeria. They don't care about quality. They just care about profits. So understanding that everything you're doing is not just a representation of your business, it's a representation of the platform which the transaction happened, but a global audience is out there that is looking at what you're doing. Either we like it or not, as African, we're always under the spotlight, and we have to do better with what we do.
Absolutely. At what point can we work on the mindset of Nigerians? At first, to believe in the product made in Nigeria. Because when you just oppose, you have made in Nigeria, made in China, made in Germany. Most Nigerians will say, I prefer made in China or Germany. So at what point can we work on that mindset of that average Nigerian that is watching you at the moment?
It's all about, we've started already by having these conscious conversations. It started with a conversation. It started with holding each other accountable. Understanding that whatever you do now is a representation of me, whatever she does is a representation of me. And I think that is very, very important. And also, we can't really blame Nigerians to a very large degree. In the West, when you buy things online, 99.9% what you bought is exactly what you're gonna get. Because there are written policies, there are check and balances that are there. There are controls, there are gaps. The truth is this, in absence of controls, humans are gonna do whatever they wanna do.
And who facilitates this control? Isn't it government?
The government policy is part of it,
okay,
but also the platform where these transactions also happens. Because many of these platforms where these transactions happens, their focus is volumes. Or you want to release to investors, we made about 3-point-something trillion naira in terms of sales this quarter, or we made about 2-point-something billion naira in terms of sales this quarter. It's a game of numbers. But you also need to understand why the numbers are there. The quality also is very important, which is why, if you look at certain platforms as of today, they were the creme de la cremes about 5, 6, 7 years ago. Today, where are they? People are losing trust in them. When we talk about made in Germany, especially when you talk about cars, for an example, people are going to be like, oh, I trust made in Germany, made in Japan. Why? Because there is quality control. Now, if you take away the quality control, the check and balances.
In-house, you know.
In-house.
Right.
If you take away those check and balances, I promise you in the next 5, 6, 7 years, they're also going to be in the same spot that we are as Nigerians
Right,
as well.
but these international platforms, there is the feedback from here. If you follow my trend, I won't name names though, yes, but there's a feedback that perhaps there is some level of double standards. So the Nigerian market has been found to be very massive, that even foreign e-commerce platforms are coming into Nigeria. You go to social media, you see them in your face, fascinating goods. But then there's also the complaints of what I ordered is not what I am getting. Maybe the size and all of that. Is it me that didn't check well? Or is it a matter of double standards, that they know that this is Nigeria, they feel anything goes?
It's a matter of double standard. And I'm going to give you an example away from e-commerce. If you fly from the United States and probably from US, you're coming to Nigeria and you have a layover somewhere in Europe, the plane that takes you from US to Europe is probably made 3-4 years ago. The plane that takes you from that part of Europe to Nigeria, you have to hold your breath and a little part of prayer to make sure like it lands safely. It's not necessarily because they don't have the right plane to take you to Nigeria. It's just because they feel like Nigerians are going to take whatever we dish to them anyway, and there are no controls in place by government to make sure that people are being held responsible for whatever that is. I think the moment we understand that, which is part of the reason why I've been having this conscious conversation saying Nigeria, Africa is not just a place to come and take, it's also a place to give, and understanding that is essentially important. I think the moment we start having this conscious conversation, start pushing the right policies, it automatically does help us.
Yes.
All right, talking about online security at this time. I have some friends who will tell you, I will never buy anything online because of hackers.
Yes.
What are those things you need to know to get that genuine product online?
I'll be lying to you if I say account takeover is not real, because professionally, I've built my entire experience in financial crime space. I'll be lying to you if I say credit card fraud is not real. It is. But the question we should start asking ourselves is this: is it just a Nigerian problem? Or is it a global problem? Like I said earlier, it's just that the only difference is just that for us as Africans, whatever we do is magnified way more than any other places. But at the same time, there are certain things that for platforms where transactions are happening every day, you need to understand that seller education is essentially important. Buyer education is important. Why there are buyer fraud, there's also seller frauds. There are sellers that's going to list product that is not exactly what we list, which we discussed earlier. There are also buyers that are going to purchase through credit card. A good example was around December, dirty December in Lagos. There are people that came from diaspora that bought a lot of things through credit cards. And when they went back, what did they do? They filed for chargebacks and say it was fraudulent. And those businesses in Nigeria now suffer as a result of that. I will not be surprised by next year, or this year, December, that's coming, the businesses are not to accept credit cards anymore. But
so what's the way to go? Okay.
Seller education is important.
All right.
It's very, very important. An average businesses needs to put a lot of effort into that. Stop assuming that people know, because most of the time they don't. That is number one. Number two also is holding this platform responsible. You're making profits anyway. Why don't you invest in the security features of your platforms? If transactions are happening and the transaction looks out of pattern, out of place, your system should be able to flag it. Especially when we live within the world of AI as of today. just to wrap it up a little bit, one of the examples that I can give is this. One of the controls that I've built over time is where if transaction does not align with your business profile, it's automatically flagged. If, for example, you're a taxi driver, there is a certain type of transaction we expect of you. If the transaction projections goes higher, it flags, and then we reach out to you and say, hey, Emmanuel, we saw that you processed about $15,000. What about them? Like, oh, I am now into automobile sales. I'm not a taxi driver. Then we adjust the profile accordingly.
Developed country.
But I built it.
Okay, well, that's all the time we have for
Absolutely.
this interesting conversation. We do hope we can bring you some other time, even though you say you're not exactly based in Nigeria, but being the businessman that I see you are,
we can also replicate
dipping in and
what
out.
you have over there here.
Yeah, dipping in and out. So Wale Ayoye, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
For
Thank you
with
for
us.
having me.